Now, the Proteas have a new director, new leaders, and it seems as though the team is starting its reconstruction after really what is a forgettable World Cup in Britain. Tonight, we catch up with cricket analyst Lunga Kupiso to talk about a number of issues surrounding this new dawn. Good evening, Lunga, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and it is a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so first things first, Enoch Nkwe has now officially taken over the reins. What are your thoughts on his appointment, especially given the fact that he's now officially in charge of one tour?
Well, I did say we must throw caution to the wind in his appointment. Is it an appointment to suss out whether he's ready to take over with the Proteas for the next 4 years, or is this some sort of a here's cheese and wait for a mice to come and try and grab it and he's out of the running? So if it is the latter, then I don't think Enoch is the right man that they should be appointing. But if they are appointing him because they want to appoint him on a permanent basis and give him 4 years, then yeah, sure, he has what it takes, and he's shown that he can work with some of the world's most talented players in our domestic setup as well as the MSL.
Now, you're speaking about the permanent versus temporary basis. Now, we've heard other names being thrown into the hat, and one particular one that comes to mind is Mark Boucher. Now, he's also made a lot of utterances which some people are not happy with, such that he's only going to come and take the reins if he can appoint his own support staff. Now, do you think that this is something Enoch will be allowed to do?
Well, I mean, I would assume that every coach coming into a coaching position is allowed some form of negotiation. And part of that negotiation would be I need some sort of flexibility for me to bring in guys I know I can work with to produce the results. I wouldn't expect or anticipate that Boucher would be allowed to pick his own team because he's Mark Boucher, and Enoch is not allowed to pick his own team because he's Enoch. And if that were to be the case, then I'm pretty sure we'd know about it.
Okay, so that's one of the things we've heard around Mark Boucher. The second is that he's not really interested in upskilling himself in terms of his qualifications. He doesn't have his level 3 qualifications. He's completely dismissed this and he said it's not true. But people ask questions about if he was really serious about his cricket, would he not have already gotten this qualification, instead of telling us things like, well, he's currently being assisted with his training by the likes of Gary Kirsten as well as Jacques Callis.
Well, it does help that you've played 147 test matches for South Africa and you've got friends in Callis and you've worked under Gary Kirsten, so you can give those guys a call at any time and, you know, get advice. But what I think Boucher
as an added benefit to a qualification.
Added benefit. I think what he'd want to do, though, is just revisit his thoughts and ideologies in and around the coaching and what it means to be a coach in the South African context. So what he forgets is that he's a coach of a domestic franchise here in South Africa, and in South Africa, there are certain standards that are set for anyone who wants to be a coach. First, you must go and obtain your introductory level coaching certificate. Then from there, you are invited for your level 1, your level 2. Level 3 is by invitation only. And really, if you get that invite, you want to take it up. Also, these kind of utterances are something that would worry Cricket South Africa if they were looking at Mark Boucher, because he is already setting a negative tone that if he gets appointed, what will that message be saying to the rest of South African cricket coaching staff around the country in terms of getting their certifications and not necessarily having been through the Proteas setup?
It would definitely be setting a bad precedent.
It would be a negative foundation, and it's something that perhaps somebody would want to whisper. And if you're watching at home, Mark Boucher, maybe you want to consider taking back those utterances. They do not work to his advantage. And I don't think he thought a lot about them. But hey, sometimes you find yourselves in positions where you don't have to think about a lot of things and you get caught offside, and maybe that was one of those moments for Boucher.
And his defense, he has completely dismissed these. But now let's talk about our tour to India in October. So we've got the likes of your Rassie as well as Quinton looking after the T20, and then we've got Faf as well as Themba Bavuma being in charge of the test side of it. Tell me what you think about these selections, and in particular to Faf. What is the wisdom that comes with retaining him as a captain?
Well, I think Faf has done well in terms of leading the Proteas into being a successful cricketing side. He's done well to steadily, the role of captaincy is one that demands a player that is able to deal with pressure situations and still be able to apply themselves and still give the results as well.
Yeah.
And I think the young man has done well in that position. It might be a smart idea for Cricket South Africa to retain his services as the leader of the camp as we are in this transition period, up until they get to a point where they feel the next Faf du Plessis in the side who's going to lead the Proteas is now ready, has learnt from Faf what needs to be learnt in terms of taking it forward. He has shown, against the likes of Australia, against the likes of England, that when he is leading the Proteas and is playing against a top cricketing nation, he will produce the results. And you do need a character like Faf to be part of your squad in India playing a test match. Is it the right decision in terms of leadership and the rebuilding?
And the long-term direction that we're taking? I'm
not so sure. But once again, those are conversations that perhaps he would have had with Cricket South Africa to say he still wants to play the test format for the next 3 years. And, we're starting the test championship now as well. So maybe he wants to be involved in that as well. So we don't know that conversation behind the scenes. But in terms, for me, my only orange flag would be how long does he have in him to be playing test match cricket.
But you also just asked the question now, as you're speaking about we're looking for new leadership. Is the appointment of Themba Bavuma, CSA saying we're looking at you to possibly be the person that takes over from Faf?
Well, Themba has led in the Lions, and he's done that well as well there. So I'm pretty sure that CSA do not make the appointment on blind faith. They know that the guy has got a head on his shoulders, and he's definitely not somebody who's shown that he will balk under pressure. It's a great opportunity for Themba as well now, to sort of stamp his authority as being part of the leadership group within the Proteas. And if he does well, I'm sure he'll be amongst now the leading candidates to take over from Faf. Also, it's exciting to see that Rassie is being given his dues for great performances that he's had at the World Cup and leading up to the World Cup. And he's being recognized. And it's something that he would want in terms of being recognized as a vice captain and potentially one day being the captain of the side. So it's all good signs. It really is all good signs around that leadership setup.
And it's also something that we would want as well as a nation to see that if your players are performing, they're actually rewarded justly. And now moving on, let's stay on this Themba Bavuma discussion. Themba is somewhat starting to become what Hashim Amla was for the Proteas. It's almost like he can do your T20, he can do your test, he can do your ODI. What would you say is the end goal with a player like Themba?
Well, he's definitely done well to anchor the Proteas in the test format. And he's come under a lot of pressure that is unnecessary, in my own honest opinion. He's been under such heavy scrutiny, and I rate if it was a different player, we won't mention race, he wouldn't be under such pressure. Themba has done what he's needed to do in his role in the Proteas. And it's great now that he's being recognized as a short format player. And I suspect we'll also see a lot of him in the ODI format as well. And what that does is it adds a little bit of consistency in terms of that Proteas setup. Also, it would be a great sign if you are Themba to say, okay, I'm playing test, I'm playing T20, I'm the vice captain of test.
But I'm finally being recognized
it's not too far. It's not too far fetched for an idea to say maybe Themba could be the next Proteas captain. You never know. It's great signs. I'm just excited that we're going to see him playing white ball cricket, and he's somebody that's done well in the white ball format. So it's going to be great. And young black kids are going to see a black superstar playing white ball cricket. And that's what we want to see.
Okay, well, unfortunately, this happens every single time. As it starts to get really juicy, we run out of time. But thank you so much, Lunga, for coming through once again and talking to us about the Proteas and where we are heading as a national team.
Pleasure.
Well, Ningism Africa, unfortunately, all good things do have to come to an end. And with that said, it's time for us to say goodbye. But do remember that we can keep our sporting conversation alive on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at SABC Sports Live. Alternatively, you can drop us an email, sportslive@sabc.co.za. From me, Uvusiwe Ngobo, and the rest of the Sports Live and Full View team, it's good night and take care.